Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the Maurice Lacroix Masterpiece Squelette. You can see this fully skeletonized Maurice Lacroix timepiece and purchase it on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full listing for this watch with additional accessories included, more high resolution images, and naturally full pricing details. Now you can see on my wrist 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference. This is the more moderate of Maurice Lacroix's two primary round cases. They have a 46 and they have a 43. And on my 16 centimeter, 6.3 inch circumference wrist, the 43 millimeter case you see here works far better. Now you'll also note that 43 is the measurement across the round of the case, not including the crown. In terms of thickness, the watch is fairly reasonable. It's actually thinner than it looks at 13 millimeters, and with a nicely sloped sapphire and bezel, the watch actually fits underneath a dress cuff or a tight sleeve quite easily. Now from lug to lug is where this watch really surprises. At 43 millimeters, you might expect it to be far broader than its 51 millimeter lug to lug dimension. So across the wrist, it's not going to overwhelm a smaller forearm. Now the other thing that's quite nice is that with a generous open dial and a generous open case back, there's a minimum of metal here, so the watch is quite light on the wrist. It's exceptionally light. Now the timepiece is comprised of stainless steel, but you might think it's titanium based on just how light it wears. It is really quite extraordinary. Another aesthetic feature that also becomes an ergonomic boon on this watch is the use of slightly scalloped case flanks. It allows the strap to be somewhat countersunk into the flank of the case. Notice just how little daylight there is between the end of the strap and the flank of the case. It's a very integrated look, but because the strap isn't actually pinned against the case flank, you can easily pull it straight down around a smaller wrist. So 43 millimeters, but not overpowering. Now, in terms of security on the wrist, you have a quite beautifully finished Maurice Lacroix twin trigger single fold deployant. So the twin trigger means it's very secure. It can't accidentally pop open. You have to press both tabs to open it. And once open, you see that there's a sort of strap minder system built in whereby any excess strap is tucked under the clasp rather than riding up along the exterior of the opposite side. It also frees us from those unsightly little minder loops. So between the integration of the case flank and the strap and the handsome and clever buckle, this is a very clean watch aesthetically on the wrist. Now in terms of case finish, because of its size, Maurice Lacroix smartly uses a minimum of high polish. There are some high polished highlights along the bezel and along the bevel of the lugs, but for the most part, the dominant aesthetic is satin finish, albeit applied in a fashion not often seen, as rather than having longitudinal satin finish, you can see that it's a vertical striation along the case. It softens the light against the side of the metal. Now the dial itself is, for want of a better term, completely absent. And I say for want of a better term because there is a dial. Look closely and you'll see that underneath the sapphire crystal there is a second sapphire that's acting as a base for the placement of the indices of the hours. Now, one of the extraordinary features of this watch, aside from the fact that there are 3 sapphires in total, is the fact that although a skeleton, and that type is notoriously difficult to read, this is actually an easy watch on which to discern the time, and that's all due to the high contrast of the heavily loomed Dauphine hands at center, in contrast to the rather darkened movement, the skeletonized movement beneath. Notice just how easy it is to pick out those long streaks of luminova along the hour and the minute hands, and they are long, extending all the way, in the case of the minute hand, nearly to the periphery of the dial. Perfectly sized, easily legible. There's also the advantage of being able to see this watch in low or no light conditions because of the generous amount of luminova that's offered. Now you can see everything. You can see the motion works bearing the hands at center. You can see the keyless works that coordinates both the winding of the watch and, when you pull the crown, you can see the clutch disengaging, the setting of the watch. This is an incredibly open sort of tour of the movement. Being based on a pocket watch caliber, you get a fantastic chance to go to school in fundamentals of watchmaking. Everything from the keyless works to the motion works. to the actual going train on the backside. And here's where Maurice Lacroix understands that you want to be able to see the movement, that the movement itself is the highlight of this watch. You'll note that there are certain cleared portions of the smoked sapphire on the caseback. You can see them over the mainspring barrel. You can see them over the escapement and the balance, and over the fourth wheel and the escapement. So you can easily appreciate the fundamental simplicity, the old-world pocket watch style architecture of this black gold coated and skeletonized Maurice Lacroix ML134 movement. Now it has 17 jewels, it has a 45-hour power reserve, of course it is manually wound, and inside this case it enjoys 5 ATM water resistance. You can see and you can purchase this Maurice Lacroix Masterpiece Squelette on our website.